Hey guys, this is Katie. My husband and I work here on the farm. We have two handsome boys that are growing up quickly. I am usually the one that you will contact or talk to if you call, text, message the farm in any way, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thanks. Anyone else ever dread social events? One, because of the social expectations of minding your manners, and two, because of the dreaded question, so what do you do for a living? Since I was a child, I wanted to know what I wanted to be when I grew up. I was always baffled and jealous by those that knew. I could imagine myself doing a wide variety of jobs because they all seemed interesting at some level. I mean, who wouldn't want to become a vet and render aid to sick animals, or be a photographer and get paid to see and capture amazing sights and events, right? When I graduated from high school, the pressure just intensified. It was now my turn to provide for myself and set up a life that was conducive to raising a family, my real dream job. I knew, for me, that I had a lot of maturing and living life to do before I'd make a good wife or mother, though. What should I do in the meantime that would help me experience the world and develop common sense? I needed life experiences that would shape me into a better person and thus a better mother. Through a series of events that aren't necessarily logical, I became an elementary teacher. Knowing my interests and strengths at the time, I would have never predicted that decision. I had looked into architecture, engineering, and the like. I was a shy perfectionist that loved hiding from social interactions by studying, reading, analyzing data, building anything other than interacting with people. I still don't really understand how I got into teaching, but at no surprise to me, I was a horrendous teacher. I was baffled when kiddos weren't interested in dryly presented facts and were tempted to talk out of turn. For the first time in my life, I was presented with something that, one, I wasn't good at, and two, I couldn't really figure out what to do to make myself improve. There were so many soft skills I didn't have. Empathy, patience, tolerating gray instead of black and white answers, skills that only life could teach, and man, did it. Not surprisingly, I never became a good teacher, but my prayers had been answered. I had become more ready for motherhood. My students, by their words and actions, had taught me to feel their sadness and disappointment. Parents had reminded me when I did not show these qualities because I had unrealistic expectations of their babies. The pedestal I had built for myself to stand on had been kicked out from underneath me as I was surrounded by veteran and new teachers that were baffled by my incompetence. They effortlessly managed their classrooms, taught their content, and more importantly, built relationships with their students and families. I learned to be okay without having or even being able to find the answer. I learned to be okay with chaos, and most importantly, I learned to pay attention to the people around me. I learned to see things from other people's perspective other than my own, and I learned empathy, a much needed life skill. In all my planning, wishing, and hoping to have a career that I loved, God had worked in me a much more needed outcome in life. I had started to live a life that allowed others to enter my world. My students and I experienced having pets such as hermit crabs and salamanders. We started a garden in the spring so that we could experience the joy of growing our own food. But now that I think of it, I don't remember any of those plants ever producing fruit. One of my fond memories was hosting my students on the family farm to show them where their food comes from. To my students, my colleagues, and my administrators, I am sorry that I entered your world so grossly unprepared, but thank you. Thank you for allowing me in and teaching me so much about the priorities of life. I often think about these kiddos that God placed in my life, and I feel sorry for them and their lack of education while under my care. But I am so thankful for them. I think of the teachers that shared my room, that let me enter their rooms, and took time to let me cry or give me ideas to improve what I was doing. Thank you. You will forever have a soft place in my heart and memories because you put my needs ahead of yours, if even for an instant. Looking back, I may never understand how I got into education, and at the age of 42, I still don't have a career to speak of. I have dabbled in many hobbies that those early days have opened for me. I've experienced life more richly since those days, and I now welcome new experiences, especially when I get to meet new people. As many of you know, I am the face of our farm now that we sell straight to the public. An irony that I'm sure many of us are aware of when we look back at the unsure and timid kid we all remember. Now I realize that we all have a story to tell, and we can all learn from each other, even when we disagree. None of us should strive to be like another unless you find a characteristic that is emulating Christ, as in 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 1. I also believe that unless we are willing to share our stories, we will continue to grow apart and slowly only notice the things that separate us. Because unfortunately, that exists as well. Hebrews chapter 10, verse 25. Like many things in life, you'll find what you are looking for, our similarities or our differences. Just like in my early days, I don't know what tomorrow holds, but I know that as long as Christ is with me, I'm excited to experience it. Galatians chapter 2, verse 20. And as always, we enjoy those interactions with y'all, whether it is a comment about our daily verses, blogs, or Nana's recipes. Each comment, share, and feedback becomes a fiber of our intricately woven family as we become a small part of y'all's when you integrate what we share into your family.
Thanks, Katie. That was really good because it really caused me to think about one thing that sometimes I think is a problem we don't recognize. As you said, when you were young and growing up, it was like, do I become a veterinarian? Do I become a photographer? I think you forgot you became a chef too. So go along that line.
Many dreams with no.
Okay, but do you think sometimes, hon, that's because we've been given the wrong expectation when we're young?
Oh yes, definitely. I think the priorities are on. Well, the whole, like, how I started it out. What are you going to do for a living? As if that it will be us. Our jobs that earn money for our families will define us and be us. But it doesn't. No, it defines what we do or the many things we do, but it really doesn't define us. Mm-hmm. And when you look about it, if you hold only that to your heart, then you become a person who has to fulfill some application of that in your life. Mm-hmm. I've got to do something or I am no one. Mm-hmm. And then you go down the line of why I think our society is in so much trouble because, well, how far down the line is mother? Mm-hmm. You're right. Right. That our roles in our families are almost forgotten because it's like that'll take care of itself. Mm-hmm. And it's not even considered, not that it's a job, but it's not even considered as a role or defined or prioritized. Mm-hmm. Because as long as I'm making money and I'm this, whatever a doctor should be or whatever a veterinarian should be or whatever, mm-hmm. my kids they'll grow up, they'll be fine, they'll be taken care of. But we don't invest in our children or our spouses or those closest to us.
Oh, absolutely so. Absolutely so. And we don't even recognize them sometimes in society. I mean, I have been I've been a jack of all trades, master of none. And in my life, I look back at all the things that I did. And the hardest thing I think I ever did on a real day-to-day basis was be a dad. Mm-hmm. Because it's a growing thing. I can go to school, I can get a degree. I did, got several degrees. I come home, I have a teaching certificate, okay? So I could learn how to be a good teacher, but once that stopped, I'm a good teacher. Mm-hmm. I could never just go, okay, I was a good parent for 4 days. The rest of the time, it's up to y'all. Y'all go ahead. I'm retiring now. Next profession. You can't do that. It is a continual, and yet if you look at it, how many pictures can you take? How many dogs can you cure? How many horses can you palpate? How many other things can you do? But how many lives do you really change when you change the life of one person? Generations.
Yeah. Hopefully,
Generations.
because hopefully what you've passed to them is something that they're passing forward, and they're
Oh,
it's
yeah.
multiplicative.
Oh, and we know they do. We know they do. I mean, that's why the same. I can remember when I was 12, my mom looked at me, and I was having trouble in school. I always did, and and I think one of the reasons I had trouble in school is because I never did homework.
That might affect it.
Yeah, it could have affected a little bit. I never did homework. And I told my mom one day, oh gosh, Mom, I'm having trouble in math. And she said, that's okay, hon. You can be a good plumber. And I stopped and I looked at her and said, well, Mom, if you can be a plumber, you can certainly be president. Which it's really true now when we look at what we have. But I think the thing was true. Something in my heart was maybe it's not what I do with my hands, but who I become as a person. That's the only eternal thing. Unless, now I could be wrong, I think the AFL-CIO believes there are machinist heavens, or locomotive heavens for people, but I don't think so. I think it's just what kind of people we really become in our heart. And isn't that the great goal of everything?
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think maybe because I don't have a traditional job or career or whatever, I was thinking of that, like, when I look back, though, I've never had an experience that hasn't shaped me or prepared me for my next experience, whatever it was. And if nothing else, given me the mindset that it's there and it's there for a reason, so I embrace the future with hope and with courage instead of, I don't know what's around the next bend.
Well, one most important ingredient I found in everything that I did was the discipline to do it. And having that discipline is pretty much a key to one's success in that field. But I find it's not too far from that in Christianity, where Christ said to be disciples, which are disciplined people of followers. So,
not just professing, but studying and
not being a religious. I'm a religious. I graduated with a degree in religion, but I think it's really interesting too when you say that when Christ was offering his only one way of rewarding people, or recognizing when people do something that he thinks is great. He didn't say, well done, you got your PhD. Well done, you're a doctor. Well done, you're this. But he said, well done, thou good and faithful servant. So when we take that in our heart and we go, I want to be the best servant in the whole world. And that doesn't take a degree to do.
Right. And he's given all of us what we need to fulfill that. And it won't be identical for any two people.
No.
But he'll be there and he'll give you what you need.
I think on the surface it's not identical. But I think down inside it's, as you said a while ago, it's the qualities we learn from the Holy Spirit and the qualities we learn from God to how to do it. I can be the President of the United States and be an ass. I can be a janitor and be a leader because I'm kind and careful and considerate. So it's not the position of what we do. I think it's many times just the position of our heart. And like you said, it's those things you learn about people where you succeed the most.
One, not being afraid to connect people, but also realizing that everyone has something to show you, something to teach you, some light to shine.
But see, what you said with that statement is so powerful, because it says everybody has significance and value. And when you see people with significance and value, that is the first, most basic, foundational element of Christ. All who came to him. all. So God so loved the world.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's so fundamental if we could learn that. Hey, great blog, great blog. I think when you write out of your experiences, you write out of your heart. Some people that write out of their heads, I'm like, I don't know about that. But, well, as you say, all of your years of experience. And, here's the good news. Huh? You go back and be a great teacher now.
But better, but I still don't think that'd be great. No. There's just some things
Well, I would be a great teacher, but I'm not sure they'd keep me for long because I would be doing it my way.
Right, yes. I'm not very good with the structure that a classroom requires.
Yeah, me neither. Thank you so much, Katie. You have a good day.
Thank you, you too.
Bye-bye.
Hey y'all, thanks for joining us for Around the Supper Table. At Sanctuary Family Farms, we want to be real. Whether that's through our blogs, daily verses, or even Nana's recipes, we want to share the messages that God has laid on each of our hearts. If you liked what you heard today or want to get in touch with us, you can find us on Facebook and YouTube at Sanctuary Family Farms or our website at www.sanctuaryfamilyfarms.com, where we share our recipes and blogs and sell farm fresh beef and pork. We can't wait for you to join us again for next week's episode.